What's up, YouTube? Got an announcement today that I'm super excited about. Next Thursday is the cutoff time for this, but in less than a week, we've got an interview with the owner of the Big Sky Earthship in Montana, Jeff Saad. So what I'd like to do is put together an opportunity for you guys. I know I've seen all the hater comments, all the troll comments for the nicest Earthship you've ever seen slideshow video that I put together. I know you guys don't like it. I'll explain a little bit about that in a second. But what I'd like to do, and what I'm excited about, is we're gonna be able to we're gonna do a live interview with Jeff. We're gonna be able to ask him. I think he's lived in the Big Sky, Montana Earthship for 4 years now, so we should be able to get some really good insights. And he lives in cold weather, so which is awesome. This is what I've been waiting for. This has kind of been in the making for like 6 months. I had some health problems. I was down and out for a while. Jeff was traveling. We reconnected, so we're gonna do this. He's got some big announcements also coming out. I can't tell you what they are. I'll let him do that. And so what I'm going to do is run through a few things that I'm going to ask Jeff, and then just to give you an idea of some of the stuff that we're going to cover. And then what I would like to do is give you guys the opportunity over the next week. I know it's really short notice, but for those of you that do see it before next Thursday, if you just ask whatever question you want me to pass on to Jeff in the comments section of this video, we're going to field all those comments and address them in the interview about the Earthship. So I'm super excited. We should get a really good idea of what like the heating and cooling performance has been for Jeff over the last couple of years. There's a few other things that I want to ask. Just to give you a brief history, I know there's a ton of people out there that hate the fact that I have a slideshow video and all this shit. Just to tell you how that came about, I did not start out wanting to create slideshow videos. I bought a video editing software and it had slideshow capability, and I was like, yeah, one day I should probably learn how to use this in case it would be useful for another project or something like that. So this was probably a year ago. Pardon me. This was probably a year ago, and I was just getting into Earthships. I was just researching Michael Reynolds. I found the 7 Directions guys. I found Jeff's Earthship, and I was like, wow, this is the nicest Earthship that I've ever seen. Why don't this? I tried to contact them. It looked like they went out of business. I pulled up an archive of the old 7 Directions website, found some really cool pictures, and I was like, wow, why don't I put something together that I think would be cool and learn how to use the software, like, and actually have a little project out of it instead of just using bullshit stock photos and all this other stuff. So the 2 and 2 went together. I never really intended to upload it, and then one day I was like, oh, this is kind of cool, and I really like the Earthship. So it's amazing what can happen just out of, you know, sometimes things are just meant to be. I didn't know that I would end up hooking up with Jeff or that he would have big plans for the future or any of this stuff. I just thought it was a cool place. I think they did an amazing job. It's the nicest Earthship that I really have ever seen. So let's jump into it. And all you haters out there, this is an opportunity for you too. I know I've seen all the comments. Oh, what do you think? This is Flickr, motherfucker? You know, this is YouTube. You're supposed to be videos only. Da, 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 da. This is your chance. This is your opportunity to, you know, not stick it to me, but to get any insights or ask any questions from Jeff or anything that you'd like to know about Earthships. I know there's tons of people that have concerns or questions about the costs. Is it really worth it over just doing like a traditional frame house that's a green or eco-friendly building? All these things. Whatever you want to know, just put them in the YouTube comments, and then I'm going to give you a quick overview here of what I would like to know. I have a lot more than this, but this is just like top of mind stuff. So the reason that I became interested in Earthships is because my grandparents built a cabin in Maine, a little tiny cabin. It's a 30 by 30. It's a 1-bedroom with a loft. And it's been in Maine, probably central western Maine, for almost 30 years now. So eventually it's going to need a major overhaul. And I only go up there for about 2 months out of the year. So originally, my interest in Earthships was, why don't I try to recreate the structure itself, because it's going to need some foundational work. The piers and stuff like that are sagging, and you'll have to jack it up and put beams under it and do all this stuff. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to have to do all that within the next decade or so, why don't I turn it into something that is more sustainable, something that'll take care of itself a little bit better and endure the cold? Because while it's pretty well insulated, like this past February when I was up there, one day we went snowmobiling and had great conditions. It was 20 degrees, and the next morning I woke up and it was 12 below zero with probably negative 30 with the wind chill. Like, pretty damn cold. The coldest that it's ever been when I've been up there when I was a child, or even in my mid-teens, was I think 28 below zero plus wind chill, and that was pretty cold. No one really goes outside for that. So my main interest, and what I haven't been able to find online, and what really has led me to Jeff or want to do an interview and learn more about this stuff, is how do the Earthships perform in cold weather performance, and what is this thermal loading process that they talk about? So technically speaking, I have a decent understanding of what it is. Essentially, not load bearing, the mass wall at the back is kind of like a battery, and it stores energy and heat and things like that. So over the course of 2 to 3 years, supposedly, it absorbs more energy and evens out the temperature differences, and they become more consistent. The temperatures rise, especially in a cold weather environment. But I would like to talk to someone like Jeff that can specifically describe, it's been in his place for 3 or 4 years. What was it like the first year? How much heat did it take? That brings me to my second point, is heat distribution. A lot of times from the early Earthships, you see the U-shaped tire walls. So they have mass walls that separate the bedrooms. So my question is, how well do those structures, even though they have a greenhouse across the front, and I know Jeff's is a little bit different, how well do they distribute heat? So can you have a wood stove in the living room and then not freeze your ass off if the bedrooms are on either side? Or I know he has a garage on one side, and I'd like to talk to him about that as well. And so what I'm getting at is this a viable option to leave unattended for any length of time? Realistically, I'm in Florida for most of the year, and I go to Maine for 2 to 3 months a year, and it's split up into 2 different trips. So there can be a 6-month gap where I don't go there, or at least 4 months. So is there a way to design an Earthship in a cold weather environment that it can withstand being left unattended? I've got a few other ideas that were kind of going to go hand in hand with that. Obviously, if you had a greenhouse, you would have to have some sort of full-time internet, and you'd have to have a smart home system with online access so that you can control heating, you could have temperature sensors, you could have automatic irrigation, things like that. But the difficulty arises in the next section. So my biggest thing with the Earthships and putting them in a snow climate is the front greenhouse windows. Snow and light penetration, because these things go hand in hand. So if you try to eliminate snowfall on the front glass, you really, from what I've seen, I don't know because I've never built an Earthship before, and these are the kind of valuable things I think for people in a northern climate that would really make a difference. So as soon as you start messing with the front greenhouse angle and the roof line, you're going to change the light penetration, which is going to change the amount of heat. And it's also, if you're talking about being in a winter climate and you have dreary days, how much does a full bright sunlight day affect that? And Jeff should be able to, explain this a lot better than I'm asking it, but it should make a lot of sense when we do the interview. So I've got a couple of questions, and I've had a couple of ideas for the last, 6 months or so. What if, you replace the greenhouse angle with vertical windows with a really steep pitch roof that kind of is in some way going to match the angle of the sun to allow for some penetration. But you can see from this diagram that if we just cut these two angles here and do a little pie, the sun is most likely just going to hit the bottom of the tire wall, whereas here it penetrates at least halfway up, which is probably going to change the light penetration and the thermal loading and the heat a lot. But I would like to ask, there's specific things that I'd like to know for Jeff, like with his, if he doesn't come home at lunchtime, or if he is not around for a while and nobody brushes the snow off of the glass, the greenhouse glass in the front that stretches across the whole front of the structure, will it freeze? Will the back of it freeze? And if it does, how long does that take? Is it days? Is it weeks? Is it, will the greenhouse portion freeze? What are the limitations here? And is there, in his, I don't feel qualified to say that, one way or another would be a good way to mitigate this or to redesign this, but I would like to know, is there an adaptation of a roof line or some type of, he's been in the snow for 4 years now, so maybe he has some sort of a contraption that keeps the snow off the front. I don't know. So we're going to get into that. And then I jotted down concerns. I really only have one concern at this point, but I know that other people have concerns like cost. Is it really practical to do such a labor-intensive build and spend so much money just to save on power consumption and be green and recycle and all that? Some people are not on board with that, so I would like to get Jeff's opinion on the cost versus benefit after living in one of these. And if he thinks there's any issue of tire off-gassing, I know a lot of people have asked about that and talked about that already. This one is my main one. I think the tire off-gassing is really addressed as long as you seal the walls. So if you're sealing the walls and there is no exchange of air, I don't think the tire is really off-gas too much. But we'll be able to ask Jeff and and see when he goes into the back utility portion of his place, or anywhere really, can you ever smell the tires, or like on a hot summer day, or any issues like that. I'd also, what I forgot to put on here is the water tanks. Is there any issue of the water tanks or collection bins ever freezing? Any issues with there not being a frost barrier that goes down, say 5 or 8 feet, and then kicks inward in front of the greenhouse to prevent, like in Maine, if you get frost heave or anything like that, stuff can kind of get dislodged, and then once an air gap opens up, it can freeze things within like a 2 to 3 foot, or 2 to 3 feet in on the building, or underneath the building is what I'm trying to say. So finally, what I've been interested in for the last 4 or 5 months is, are there any viable alternatives to using tires? I know the whole point of the Earthship is to build, a mass battery wall, and also to recycle the tires and to help the planet and stuff. But for example, if I wanted to build one of these in Maine, it's very remote, it's going to be really difficult or very expensive for me to get people to help me. So I've been trying to explore ideas that I could perhaps do a little bit easier, like do the majority of the work on my own and make it easier. Things that I've thought of are dry stack block poured solid, any type of block or concrete with a stone face, all kinds of stuff. Kind of getting to the point where can a single person install the majority of this, and then just hire help for like the purlins or the not trusses, but the whatever they call the beams. Get help for stuff like that, and then do most of the framing and do most of the labor yourself to save on costs. Let me turn this off. I don't know what that is. And so that's what I'm really interested in. Is anyone kind of exploring different things that don't involve tires, simply because it either takes a lot of people, because it's so much effort, or it takes a long time if you're doing it yourself. So like if I were to go to Maine for 2 months in the summertime, if I didn't time things right and I had an issue, winter is going to come, and if I don't get everything dried in, you're kind of screwed. And I don't think that I could really do that with tires. I think it's too much work, and I think it would be not cost effective for me to hire people just to help me pound tires. Like there's probably a better technical use of the time or the money or the resource. But that's just my opinion so far. What I'd like to do is hear from Jeff what it was like to have the crew come and work on his, and the costs and things like that. So finally, what I'm gonna do is, over the last year or so, YouTube has kind of changed the rules on new YouTube accounts or new YouTube channels. So Jeff is eventually going to have a Big Sky channel, his own YouTube channel. Be sure to follow him and everything else. What I'm getting at is we don't know what the URL is going to be for that right now. So what I've done is set up a redirect for him, and it's going to be cleverleverage.com/Jeff. It's just www.cleverleverage.com/Jeff. And eventually this will redirect to wherever we end up putting his channel, or it'll redirect to a page where we're going to embed the interview that we're going to do next week, and all the other resources for the projects that he's got going on. I'll probably do a write-up for him and do an article, and then kind of combine all of your guys' questions and any other material that we come up with. So please, if you want to ask Jeff anything, or if you want to know anything about Earthships from someone that's built one with the EarthShip Biotecture crew, or lived in one for almost 5 years now, be sure to comment below, and it should be really good. Thanks a lot.